Hi, Ashton. I'm Brittany Murphy from Muses of Media. How are you today?
I'm good. You look like one of my best friends. Like
Oh my
literally,
God.
you guys could be twins. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Nice to talk to you.
When you initially got the script for Youngblood, what excited you about being part of the movie and specifically, obviously, portraying Dean?
I was really excited to work with Charles Officer, first and foremost. That was like a massive goal of mine and like a really big dream. So it started there, and then it also like it became about learning how to do something. I'd never explored hockey in this way. So that was fun to kind of like learn about. Like I guess like a deeply rooted thing in myself as a Canadian, so like I got to explore that side of myself that I hadn't gotten the chance to before. So it was all those things. And then also just as an actor wanting to work, like wanting to be able to be on set and wanting to be able to continue exploring my craft. So it was a myriad of things, and I'm like forever grateful for it.
That's amazing. And so you were just saying, you got to learn something different. There's obviously a lot of physicality to the role, but also a lot of emotional things that you would have to prepare for in the role too. So what was that like kind of to, approach preparing for the role that has so much emotion but also so much physicality?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I led with the physical, but that like really informed the emotional. Like I remember, so our film got pushed about like 7 times. And I remember there was a day I was at the gym lifting, getting ready to film, and I got the call that it was going to get pushed again. And not that like this is quote emotion, but I was like at the gym like lifting, and I'm like really upset because I'm like, I'm like so ready to do this movie. Why is it getting pushed? And as I'm lifting these weights, I'm like so upset, but I'm also like crying at the same time because it's just like so much like feelings. And so like that in turn, what that helped me understand on an emotional level is what it felt like for an athlete to lose their opportunity, to lose the sport that they were in pursuit of. It's like almost like if I got injured, Dean got suspended for a year. So that kind of allowed me to understand what that would feel like to lose something that means so much to you. So it's like it all informed it. It's like when your life kind of informs your art, and a lot of that was happening in it was all bubbling underneath. So I find it all kind of like came to me.
And so obviously it's a sports film. And a lot of times, at least I've noticed in sports films, there's this really nice balance between, the vulnerability of the main character and also kind of the intensity of like everything that's going on, whatever the sport happens to be. So, how did you kind of find that part of the balance in your own performance when you were playing Dean?
Yeah, I think that was like in the script, like it was kind of there to have the different sides of it. And what was helpful was trying to carve out moments for Dean where he had like moments of quiet, and we can like sit with him for a little bit so he can sit with the choices he was making, and try to just to have a three-dimensional character, like I've been talking about it like throughout the days. Like Hubert and I were mindful of not creating an angry black boy, and like that it just wasn't that one thing. Because we just didn't want to cause harm to like a stereotype that had just kind of been out there before. And I was like, it doesn't need to be this. It can be something more full, and it can be someone in exploration of themselves and figuring out who they want to be. So I think all of those things kind of like help that live in a certain way.
And you were just saying that, like Dean's journey and kind of, learning how you want to be as a person or him as a player. So, when you were filming some of the scenes throughout the movie, was there a particular kind of, I guess, moment where ultimately, while working on the film, you kind of not only were learning about Dean and his journey, but you kind of learned something new about yourself and your own journey?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting. One of our last days, we were filming the ending like of the film where Dean is in the car and he leaves his dad's house. And I was like trying to figure out how to because that's where he's like really going. I'm starting the journey to be someone new. I am starting the journey to be a new version of myself. And for me, I was like, oh, how do I get into this? How do I navigate this moment? And I was like, oh, I too am releasing this project. I've been attached to it for almost 4 years, and I've been thinking about it and wanting to do it and wanting to get to do the experience of it. And I lost someone, and I mean, everyone lost someone, not just me, and then we started again, and I was like, oh man, like what's going on? And then I was also like, when I'm done, I'm going into the unknown, which is a new version of myself, and just all these different things. So then those two moments kind of like met in the middle, where Dean's experience was my experience in the way where I was like, oh, I am shedding myself in you, and I am walking into something, I'm walking into the unknown. So all of that kind of like, I know that doesn't necessarily directly answer it, but it's like I think a fine through line of like a moment where I was like, oh, this is in sync.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the scene of Dean leaving his father's house, and you share a lot of the core emotional moments alongside Blair Underwood, who plays Dean's dad. So, what was it like, shooting all those different scenes together?
I mean, he's a force and a half, a force and two, like he is everything that, people would imagine and more, from the first day that he came to set, it really I was a little nervous actually before that the dynamic with Dean and his dad wasn't gonna work. I was kind of like, oh man, like for the amount of things that he's doing, is it like does it make sense for why he's doing it? And as soon as Blair said one word out of his mouth, I was like, oh no, this is gonna work. Like this makes so much sense because his dad is while Blair's performance, it's so layered because Blaine is really pushing Dean to be a version of himself, but that only works because it's deeply rooted in love. If Dean doesn't feel his dad's love, then he has no reason to be believing in his values and his beliefs. So Blair was able to layer that in with love that is just misguided. So I think his performance is really beautiful and then, when we talk about things that kind of like navigate like the film in real life, after we filmed, he's been like really kind to me, like calling me, checking in, seeing how I'm doing. I'll call him and be like, hey, I'm at this stage in my career. Like, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And, he's been like, he was generous on set and generous offset. So it was a dream. It was a dream.
That's amazing. And there are so many themes in Youngblood, ambition, resilience, identity. So, when you were playing the character and, basically, you have the script, but really, I'm sure there was moments where you put yourself into it in different ways. So, was there any kind of specific moments of any of those themes that, you would say you connected with most?
Mm. Maybe this idea of connecting back to a fuller version of yourself. I think Dean is he when he was younger, he had his mom who allowed him to see a different side. So when his dad would meet him in a certain way, he would get a different point of view through his mom, which allowed him to see the world in a full way. When he loses his mom, it's kind of forced him to see his reality in his dad's way, which isn't necessarily one that is full. And I found for myself I found that there were parts in my life where I was disconnected to a certain version of myself, and I was like, oh no, man, like I miss that version of myself that was a little more loose, or I miss the inner child in me that would like just do nonsense, and like as I started to grow older, I was like, no, I need to walk, I'm like, no, I need to find my way back to the version of me that was more full and more freeing. And so that's something that I definitely connected to in this journey of finding oneself and being who you want to be as opposed to who people have told you you are.
Amazing. And my final question for you, just like a little fun one, is just obviously, the film deals with hockey. So, is there a particular sports movie that you love that you might even recommend for someone to watch as a double feature with Youngblood?
Oh man, someone asked me this and I was like, I gave him a terrible answer and I was hoping that I would have a better answer. But I okay, hold on. Let me think. Let me think. I gotta lock in. I'll lock in. Does it have to be a sports movie?
No, if it has like a similar theme or something else that you think would kind of bring the two together, then
Yeah.
that's me too.
Oh man. Oh man. This is terrible. I feel like I'm failing cinema. Um, but there's a film called The Night of Kings that like is just has my heart. Which no, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. I gotta lock in, man. This is so embarrassing. Oh man. Oh man, Brittany, I don't know. I don't know. What I said the last time that I was asked this, I said heated rivalry. Because I thought that that's like a good
Yeah.
interconnection of like hockey and different sides of the hockey world. But it feels like a cheat, you know? It feels like an easy answer.
I mean, you could steal my answer. I mean, I've only because I've been thinking about the
Yeah,
movie.
what is your answer?
So mine was Remember the Titans with Denzel
Oh my
Washington.
goodness.
Yeah.
I that was a film my someone asked me my like favorite sports movie growing up and that's what I said. But it like so it's a great that's a honestly a great answer and I should have went there. But yeah, so let's go there. Remember the Titans. Aha, you know? Yeah.
The through line there for me was, like obviously one of the players in that also gets injured and he's like watching from the hospital room and like
Yeah.
yelling and the
Yeah.
nurse come like so I was like, oh my God.
I literally shot that scene when I was in theater school, or I studied film and TV, but I did that scene from Remember the Titans with one of my best friends, Steven, who's also on a hockey show, which is, you know, a totally different thing. But see that's there it is. There it is.
There it is, Remember the Titans. Well, thank
Yeah,
you so much, Ashton, for your time. It was a pleasure speaking with you. You are fantastic in the film, so I hope everyone goes to watch it when it's out in theaters next week.
I appreciate that. Nice to meet you.